start the, gotta get rid of this, hold on. Wait, where's, okay. Here we go. Everybody ready? Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Committee of the Whole meeting of Tuesday, October 20th, 2020 at 7:08 p.m. This meeting is being live streamed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are following Substitute House Bill 197 provisions that relate to public meetings during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to welcome everybody, residents or anybody that is on the link for YouTube for our meeting. If you have any questions, you can type them in. Angela will be monitoring the computer. She has a laptop at the dais here. And as we move on, if you enter any questions, we'll try to answer them. First order of business is roll call.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller, here. Councilman Linville.
Present.
Councilwoman Allen.
Here.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Here.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Here.
Councilman Whedon.
Here. All council present, along with our tax administrator account, Angela Reve, our law solicitor, John Montello, and we also have Pat Hickey with us tonight to talk about our casualty insurance and our other insurance coverage that Love provides us. Okay, so item number 3, we're going to start with Mr. Hickey introducing himself for some of the new council members. He'll give a little bit about, if Pat, you don't mind, about your Love and you working with Love and your relationship here and what you provide, and then we'll go into the renewal of have Mr. Hickey explain our policy and renewal and where the numbers came in this year and why. Pat, if you want to, and if it helps, Pat, you can, as long as everybody's okay, he's a distance.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm with Love Insurance Agency. We've had your insurance here for quite a few years. We do provide, we're like the broker that goes out and gets quotes, provides coverage. We tend to get you with the carrier, and then every now and then we market or try to track the market to find, if there's a better deal out there, because sometimes carriers over time increase the rates and somebody else comes in new. This year has not been the best year for your property and casualty insurance. A lot of things have come to a head, and basically it goes to your losses and the amount of dollars being spent on lawsuits. Okay, you have one in 20. They go back about 5 years. You had one in 2016 that was close to $100,000 paid. You have another one in 2018 that's reserved over $90,000, almost $100,000 there. And you have another one just came in that they just got the expense of the estimate from Defense Counsel to defend, and they're estimating $70,000 without even putting a claim reserve on it. So that kind of makes it a little bit difficult to get competitive pricing. You're coming off a 3-year rate guarantee that we had that held pretty reasonably with your current insurance company, ACC, and they offer terms of $65,082 without any change in deductibles or coverage or anything like that. So you have your $1 million primary plus a $10 million excess in your casualty coverages. We went out and since we got that number last Tuesday, we've been in contact with about 7 different insurance companies, and of course they want to see the losses. And if you look at your losses, the total with reserve right now is around, I got to say around because they haven't published the actual reserve on the HCBC claim, which is going to be about $100,000. So we're looking about somewhere between $230,000, which is the current reserve, plus the reserve for that. So somewhere between $230,000, $330,000 in losses over 5 years in total dollars. Of that, well over $180,000 I think has been paid. Okay, so that's where we stand on the HGE claim. May get expensive because as part of the defense counsel recommended the countersuit as part of the defense strategy. So HCC cost for the countersuit as long as there is an actual claim in play. At some point, that could come back and you would take over that, but, you know, a countersuit's a little more expensive proposition, so that's kind of boosted up the defense cost there. So that's what it looks like from a last picture. If you look at your premiums you paid over 5 years, there isn't any money being made here. And if you take their quote of 65,000 times 5, and if they do set that reserve at 100, then your claims will be showing you 330. That's about even over 5 years. So again, if they're not, I think they've given you a pretty good treatment. We've had numbers thrown at us by carriers that said they would want to see an $80,000 to $100,000 premium on an annual basis, and we're getting that pretty consistently. I've been sending to Angela some of my communications just to try to give her a little bit idea and track what's going on. You know, with the agency, the Ohio School, the Ohio Plan, Travelers, Right Risk Management, who I talked to today, they're going to decline it by email tomorrow. But they did not get anything right to me today. We went to One Beacon, which merged with Bridge, so we lost 2 markets right there. They merged into one. And you know, current pricing, they can compete at $65,000 based on when they do the final analysis with the last ones, and that they've got to show how the account can make a profit. Normally, a one big hit doesn't have an impact, but we'll get 1 every 2 years, and that becomes problematic. And so I just wanted to mention that. So that's where we stand in terms of your insurance premium for this year. We also looked into cyber insurance for you, and that's.
Yeah, let's
I'd like to talk
back up a little bit.
about
Ray, did you want to comment on that about me? Okay. Well, we met with Pat in the office. Ray as chairman of Safety and Insurance. Me, Ray, Angela, and Pat to go over this and you know, before, so we had some clarity on the increases and what happened and why. And at that time, Pat suggested some type of cyber coverage to us, and we talked about that. And that's Angela was saying, Pat, and I'll let you, because I know we talked about it, and you were just starting to dig into it for the village, so I'll let you kind of go from there.
Okay, again, we've been working with about 5 markets, not all of them have quoted numbers. 2 did, and they're running around the low 4,000 area, 4,000, 4,200, 4,300. For $1 million limit, they're including a number of coverages, and I'll get to that. We are finding that the cyber market is tightening a little bit on municipalities, public entities, and that's because they're targets. And you can check that out just by doing some searches on the internet yourself. And more than one underwriter has brought that up. And so they're looking at the controls and things you have in place before they'll quote it or before they'll even figure out what kind of premium or deductible. In that process, Travelers Insurance Company, which is a good player in the cyber marketplace, declined to quote based on they feel that your internet site may have a virus on it. So they do their own independent vetting of websites and things like that. They can do, one of the carriers will give us a dark web search of your email addresses. If they offer a quote, that comes with the quote. And so I think that's been forwarded to your IT people, and I think it's something you need to pay attention to. I'm going to guess that it's probably something there where they wouldn't, they feel pretty confident that that's there.
Something they can take care of.
So cyber will cover a number of different things, but also depends upon the type of policy that you provide. Different underwriters don't all offer the same type of policy or the same coverages within that type of policy. So the program that we're looking at will pick up a breach of personally identifiable or personal health information, pay the costs of credit reports and things like that. We'll defend you for a lawsuit from somebody who sues because of the breach. But even more importantly today, it goes to the extortion coverage. And extortion is one of the bigger issues that's going on in public entities. The other thing is it does include some additional coverage for funds transfer and computer fraud, up to $250,000 on that coverage. The rest of the policy's at $1 million. And, those were fund transfers, they keep trying to redirect fund transfers to hackers' bank accounts instead of your own. And we've seen there's been some pretty interesting situations, as we talked about at the meeting in Ohio, with public entities and with some non-public entities on their funds transfer. So, a lot more public entities are carrying more cyber coverage, usually at least $1 million. Some of the coverages, like computer fraud and funds transfer, are sublimited. One of the things that we liked about this program is that it also includes what we call bricking, and that is if your computers are hacked to the extent that they become unusable and can't fix it even if you pay the ransom, then you could use the money within that limit to also pay for that up until $1 million. So it is a pretty good rounded policy that we're looking at. So that would be at Bay as the carrier there, and they're the ones that have provided us right around $4,200 at this point.
And so as of right now, we haven't received that quote, is that?
Well, we have it, but they have the website where you go up there and 4 or 5 cyber carriers are on that website. So you submit the information to give you a quote. Now, we've learned that those quotes are the best numbers, and you better get an application done and get into them, okay, because, the initial quote's based on certain assumptions, which may or may not be true. And one of the things that we're careful of is if you're committing to having your data encrypted, which you don't encrypt your data. So we had to go back to them and re-get the numbers, and we think the 4250 or 4294 or something like that will hold, okay, without the requirement for encryption. And that's what we're trying to finalize on that. And of course, it's going to take an extra day or two. I had one guy write to me and told me he'd have a quote for me tonight. It's in another market, and I haven't seen it yet because he knows I have a meeting with you. And we don't know. That's the one which does the dark web search on the email addresses. Your IT guys can probably do that for you too. I mean, it's not a very expensive thing. So we do think that one of the things you need to add to your insurance program is some elements of cyber coverage, because there's some pretty good risks out there. And the cyber carriers will help you, and they'll pay for the forensic investigations, things like that, that would be involved if you thought you had an incident, which might have caused breached information.
And right now, we have no cyber coverage.
Right now, no, you have not carried cyber in the past.
So,
This is the first year we've been able to get enough interest going to actually look at it at the village. Prior years, as you know, I deal with different people within the village and haven't been able to get past them to you guys on that, or we mentioned it in passing, but I think now it's becoming even more important that you consider that as part of your portfolio.
and it just, I don't know if Pat needs to give some examples, but there's been, I know he shared some with us. It's happening out there, some breaches and some communities and things that have.
The biggest thing is just, the biggest is probably, either the biggest or second biggest are extortion claims, and just basically they get on your computer, block it, and they make a demand for you to get your information. There have been a couple of situations where the entity paid the ransom and couldn't get their files back, even though they got the information. There was a church in Cleveland that sent $1.5 million every month, well, sent some money every month to a contractor who never got there. There's a school district in Portage County, which had well over $1 million go somewhere else. I think the FBI got that money back. We had one you might have heard of, it's been in the news. Twinsburg fell victim a few years ago to a phishing scam, and they sent a spreadsheet with all their 1099s and W-2 information out the door. So, I mean, one of the biggest problems is no matter how much you do or set up your IT, okay, human error enters into the picture. This particular Emotech virus that they think is on your computers, which I think you need to look at, is one of those ones you get through email by clicking on a link or something, and then it gets on. And then what it does, it becomes a portal for other types of viruses to, or other types of programs for the hacker to get on your computer. With the final goal is to try to defraud you of some money. You know, they monitor, they can, depending on what version of this thing you have, you can actually monitor your emails, and they'll use that to try to create emails like, if they figure out, they find out you're going on vacation, they'll send an email the day you leave to change your banking account information. And since they're in there and they're reading your personal emails, they get a good idea of who you are, who you know, and they can make that email sound very, very friendly, very real. Stuff like that's just what we're seeing. There was a whole bunch of school districts in Ohio. There was an attempt to scam the superintendent's payrolls. And some of the schools paid the payrolls, changed the account information without checking it out. So that's the kind of thing that's going on out there, and it just seems, you know, it's just a fact of life.
There's actually, I was watching the news today, there was a Robin Hood group that's stealing information, and to donate the money they get from communities to charities. It was on the news today, actually. Robin Hood hacker.
So what we have, just to kind of clarify things, so what we have here, what you have in front of you for our risk and casualty insurance is the $65,082. And then this, correct me if I'm wrong, right, Angela? And then we haven't received, which was from a separate company, will be a separate premium for the cyber.
Yeah, we're still trying to, you know, get a couple final quotes,
Right.
and right now I keep talking about this at-bay quote because it's the best number we have at this point. And that's just right around 4,200 and change.
So that would be about 4,200. In the legislation, we have not to exceed the 75. We knew this would be, this is our final number right here for our
Yes,
risk.
that is correct.
That is correct. And the only thing that's kind of hanging out there, but we wanted to get this because the renewal and get this rolling here, even though Pat you didn't get the actual amount till later on because of everything going on and then looking at stuff. Yeah, we renewed November 1st, so that's where we're at. And so then when we get the other one, it would be included in this. It would be 65 on top of the 4,000 or 4,200 on top of the 65.
So that's 42 plus what now?
4,200, not 42, 4,200, 4,200. Yeah, Denny, on top of the 65.
65,000 or 6,500?
Yeah, 65,000, what you got in your, you got the quote there, you probably see it on page 4 of 6.
Just to give everyone an idea, comparatively speaking, of how the litigation helps things creep up, last year our premium was $51,242.
How much was it?
$51,242.
But we were in our third year, a guaranteed third year, and then we had quite a few claims, and that's what
How
changed.
many claims?
What do we?
Well, the biggest issue are the three POPs. The claim in 2016 that
That's what?
exceeded, there was a claim in 2016 that exceeded $95,000. There was a claim in 2018 that's reserved, they've already spent $45,000 to defend it, that's reserved at $95,000. And then we have an HGE claim with an estimated defense-only reserve of $70,000. So those are the big numbers. The rest of it's about average. I mean, normal for your size of municipality.
Right.
So I think one's a sexual harassment claim, one's a law enforcement claim, and I'm not sure how to categorize the HGE claim. It seems to hit a couple of different areas.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Hickey, this is for 1 year. Is that all that it would be, is 1 year, or is this a 3-year?
That's just 1 year. They will not offer a guaranteed rate right now.
Okay. And the same thing with the cybersecurity?
Cyber would be 1 year at a
That
time,
would be
yes.
1 year too, okay.
So again, I think the secret is to keep our claims down, and that's what we try to do, you know. I mean, that's, some claims are unforeseen, some we have control over that, you know. Yes.
So, is this the only quote that we got?
No, he went,
We have estimates from the Ohio plan of $80,000 and Travelers at 100.
What about other companies over here, is what I'm talking about?
those are other companies.
No, I say, but in addition to this agent, did we get other agents to quote on it?
We're gonna go to we've been denied for a lot of quotes because of all the litigation. So to go somewhere else when we've already built up with the current carrier, not necessarily the current agent, it's the carrier we're looking at, we're going to pay upwards of $80,000 to $100,000 if they'll even be willing to quote it. Some of them won't take on that risk to even quote it.
We've checked, our agency, I know what you're getting at, whether you want to use a competitive agency, that's your choice. We're at 6 markets right now.
How much?
We've gone to 6 different insurance companies so far. And getting the same results. In other
Pat's
words,
our
they think the
broker.
65
Yeah,
is a good price.
He markets it out. He's a broker. If we hired another broker, they would market it out the same way, probably to the same companies.
I understand,
This includes the bonds, surety bonds for all the officials?
No, the surety bonds are separate.
Very well.
Is that, okay?
They're separate.
Currently, Mr. Nunzalo, we've only had a surety bond for the fiscal officer.
Right, it's about a 30%
That's what I'm
increase.
grabbing at. Is there
30%
other
increase.
officials
Yeah.
covered?
That's what I got.
My concern.
You have you have
Those
an,
are our claims.
We're under the PATH policy.
yeah, you have a public official's employee dishonesty coverage with a faithful performance endorsement on it.
They no longer need the bond, that specific bond,
Well, you still need the bond on your fiscal officer.
only the fiscal officer.
Are you charter or are you statutory?
Statutory.
Then I believe the fiscal officer is the only one you need a bond on. And now, you could have a hiring ordinance that says something different that I don't know about, but I'm just going by the statute.
Right.
And so, there's a way to get around that, and that is to pass legislation which allows you to put your finance director on the employee dishonesty coverage. But that's a conversation I've had also with some people here. And there's, while it sounds like a nice thing to put it all in one place, if you have a separate bond on your fiscal officer, that bond has no deductible and no exclusions.
And that premium is usually $700 a year, give or take.
Whereas if you put it under the employee dishonesty coverage, it's an insurance policy, it's not a bond, okay? And there's a deductible that would be involved, and there is also exclusions, which probably wouldn't hit them, probably a little bit out there, the exclusions, but from the standpoint of the way the coverage is written, no deductible, no exclusions would be better regardless of what the exclusions would be. But you have the opportunity to include that. But you have to pass legislation, and there's some other caveats. Timing is an issue in when you go into, when that goes into place. And that's all spelled out in the law that was passed in March of 2019, or went into effect in March of 2019. And I don't remember all the details.
I'm just curious, is the law department and the engineers covered as well on that insurance? I just want to make sure, I never saw it. Since I got you, I don't see it. Right, thank you.
Let me see if I can get that up here real quick.
It was supposed to be, that's what I asked.
So it's like a 30% increase we're getting in this year. That we're getting.
Right,
Huh?
right, we understand that.
What is that?
And you know why, right?
Call me tomorrow, whatever.
Because the
Pardon?
Call me
lawsuits,
tomorrow. That doesn't
the
matter.
lawsuits against the village are risk. We paid more out than what our premium was.
Well, insurance paid more out.
Yeah, insurance paid more out than what they were collecting from us
Over a 5-year period of time.
over a 5-year period.
Meaning it's just not one bad year, it's a number of years. The,
And it's not just Walton Hills, it's every community is. So there's more claims being filed against, for public records, for, it seems like it's becoming a more litigious area in municipalities these days.
on the employee dishonesty coverage, the coverage that you have is $100,000 per loss with a $500 deductible. When you have a separate policy on the finance director, that's a dedicated policy with dedicated limits, meaning so I don't know whether you have 50, 75, 100 on her, but whatever you have, that's there for her. If you put her underneath the blanket, then the 100,000 limit applies to, everybody involved in a loss, where that applies just to the finance director's involvement in a loss.
Is this coverage, is it like just average coverage or extraordinary coverage?
I could take that question a couple of different directions. If we're talking about the width or the height of the coverage, in terms of the width of the coverage, okay, it's a very broad form. And it's very comparable with what everybody else provides.
It's broad coverage, you said?
It's very broad, yes. We include the law enforcement, employment practices, zoning issues, general liability, some trips and falls, automobile accidents, all that are all included. We have the village, buildings, contents, computers, different types of mobile equipment, all covered for physical damage. In terms of the height of the policy, okay, your buildings and contents is based on your estimate of replacement cost. So there's a finite limit on that. And in terms of a liability claim, you have $10 million on top of $1 million primary policy. So you're carrying a total of $11 million. Okay, that's aggressive for a village, if you are in Cuyahoga County. And that decision was made by council a number of years ago to provide, because you used to have $5 million worth of umbrella. Now you're up to $10 million. So you have very strong limits compared to a lot of other villages around in that area. Most villages aren't carrying $10 million on top of one. They might carry 5, but you guys are carrying 10.
So, Mr. Hickey, basically this company is giving pretty much the equivalent of what we've been covering.
That's exactly what you had last year.
Okay, with the exception of the cybersecurity.
Yes.
Okay,
And you didn't have that last year.
right.
The biggest benefit of their program right now is they're not impacting deductible on the employment practices, law enforcement, or public officials. Because while the other carriers, they may look at the losses and figure they'll try to push more of that loss back on you. And I would hesitate to say that if we develop another claim along these lines in the next year, that they wouldn't come back and try to push on the deductible level. So you're at 5,000, which is a great deductible for a village. A lot of them are, at least especially in Cuyahoga County, are $10,000 or more. Some of the cities around here, the larger ones, are looking at $15,000 to $25,000 deductibles in those coverages. I mean, a lot larger than you use, like the city of Stowe, the city of Canton, Urbana. They're looking at a lot higher deductible levels. So in that sense, it's a pretty good little program.
So even though we have quite a bit of an increase in our premium, by maintaining the deductible,
That's a cost you'd have to face if you had another
Right.
claim.
right,
So you would face 5,000. The deductible does not apply in general liability or auto liability. It applies to employment practices, law enforcement, and your public officials' errors or omissions. So if you have a claim in one of those 3 areas, you only have a $5,000 deductible. Okay? If you take that deductible up, and had they pushed on the deductible as well as pricing, then you potentially see, a payment of a $10,000 deductible back to the insurance company for losses. So it can start to add up. And, the best way to control this is to really try to keep those lawsuits, try not to have another pop for a couple of years. And, if you can clean out some vehicles, that helps too.
right.
Because you had 37 vehicles that we're insuring. So that adds up. I mean,
Right.
your vehicle count has an impact too.
Anybody have any questions for Pat?
Mayor Colgraf, I don't have a question, just a comment. I certainly want to thank Pat for coming in tonight to share and explain this policy to all the council. Also looking forward to, in the course of the next year, long before it's time for a quote for renewal, perhaps we we can have some more, dialogue and sessions on, get a better understanding of how a municipal village can continue to reduce its potential risk in those areas that the village may be exposed to. So I certainly look forward to, that type of engagement, perhaps with, not just myself, but really with,
I'm available, so,
The insurance-
anytime
safety
you want to
insurance
schedule it,
committee.
just
Right.
find me,
okay,
okay?
will do.
I've been here over the years on other matters outside of council and things to try to help with different things. So it's part of the service that we provide.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
Mr. Hickey, as far as our limit of liability, or you said it's $10 million, right?
1 plus 10, so 11 million total.
Okay. And you mentioned that may be a little bit high. Am I getting that right?
I wouldn't
as
say
far
you're
as-
high, I'd say you're aggressive for a village, but you're in Cuyahoga County. So, you gotta look at the fact you're in a much more metropolitan area. We cannot tell you how much you'll be sued for, or if something was paid, how much, a claim would go for. So, the village has, at one point in its time, over the last couple of years, felt that a $10 million limit would better protect the assets of the village than a $5 million limit. You're probably only talking a couple $1,000 in premium.
And that was gonna be my next question, and I do remember, when we did do that, it was
Yes.
recommended that we did
Right.
that. It wasn't that we just did it off the cuff, it was a recommendation, that we did that. And that's why that was put into place.
That probably came about from some of the people that were either working for or employed by the village. Because we don't recommend, we provide the information and the
Right.
cost. But we let you choose the limits that you feel are needed. I mean, we can go back to them and you can pare it down. If you want to go backwards on your limit, that's your call. Again, it's your decision, the level of protection.
Mhm.
We've continued at the same level of protection, unless we hear otherwise,
Sure. Okay,
Well,
thank you.
From what I remember too, Brian, we had, there was some kind of, what's the word you use, Jim? Not exposure, but, something.
Yeah, you're
In
on the
another
right track.
community similar in a municipality, and so it was, and they paid upward of something, and it was recommended that maybe we should increase it and have more coverage at the time.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
just looking at these limits, like 1 million occurrence and 3 million aggregate for the GL, that's pretty standard. Most small businesses have that. And the umbrella is 10 million. That's very standard. They usually run in increments of 5 and 10 million for umbrellas. And these are not really high limits, not in my world. So this is actually pretty standard, and I would never want us to have anything less than 1 million GL. To start with, I mean, you can get 500,000 on some policies, but not after all we've been through anyway. So,
Okay, thank
I
you.
don't think they're particularly high. I'm an agent.
I knew that. Somewhere in the back, I remembered that in another
Yeah.
meeting. But I'm just, the only way for me to answer is what do a lot of villages around here carry? And, so in comparison with other villages, but, some of the cities around here carry a $10 million umbrella. I mean, they're looking at that as a 1 million primary plus 10 million, at just the basics. So again, my experience is the closer you get to the center of the population, the higher the limits are purchased by the entity. Meaning, closer you get to Cleveland, to where there's more activity, claims activity, you'll see that where you may not see it out in Ashtabula County, which is a very rural county. But again, that's your call. It would save you some premium if you did decide you wanted to do that.
yeah, go ahead.
Just want to know that we haven't implemented training to try to avoid these issues, with the addition of our HR person and, our police are, with the current state of, they're receiving more training to avoid issues, so we are
hopefully you're looking at IT issue because, that's a concern.
Yeah, I did send that out, just so everyone's aware, when they sent that report with the Imotech, potential whatever on it, it's got IP addresses attached to it, so that everyone at TCC, I didn't hear back from them yet, today was the afternoon when I sent it, but I said, let the guys know about this, I sent it to Samantha.
Yeah.
And have somebody get back to me, so that we can see, is it hitting the same IP address? And it may be that we have something separate for our email, actually, so I may need to reach out to TAC instead. If TCC can't get in there and figure out, something else was like, some other bot in there. So I'm thinking that it could even be a little of both. So when I hear back from them, I'll let everybody know what this was, getting attached to anybody's email or.
I don't have enough expertise to interpret that, I'm just merely
I don't
passing it on.
either.
And they're saying they're not gonna quote it because they found this, and here's a list, they give me a list of IP addresses and everything else. So I figure the best thing to do is just get that to your IT people and vet it,
Right.
see what it really means, because I don't have the expertise, I'm just passing on information.
But with that said, it just goes and shows that we do need some type of cyber coverage, and it's a good thing we're looking into, because it kind of also, just by us looking at the policy, and if we go with that, we'll go through the same thing every time we renew it. It shows our exposure, our risk, so it's better we find it now before something happens.
And just in filling out the application and talking with Sean from TCC, there are a couple other little things we can add on to our package with them each year. That would be just a couple $100 more, per year to add on. So when it's time to revisit that, we'll certainly have that conversation.
Those cyber applications tell you the areas they're concerned about. And, so if you're going to talk to your IT people, those are areas you probably should discuss if you don't have something like that, to see, whether it'd be worth you to put in place or not.
But yeah, training is part of it, if they have a program that, there's some little, I took some in another community, they teach you how to avoid malware, where all these wares, there are.
How to recognize it.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of companies.
Right, so people don't go and open up something that's.
Right, for most of us here, I think we would get it from the internet or our email, because we're logging into proprietary systems for what we do for Clicker Courts, for accounting, we run through the auditor of state for one, I run through Baldwin for the other, and Nancy uses Baldwin, Lisa's got her program for building, so those are, I think, a little more like secured on that end too. So I feel like if the threats are gonna come in, it's definitely gonna be internet or email based.
Through the village.
Mayor,
Yes.
Angela, do you use a separate computer for those types of transactions as opposed to just opening regular email?
No, I'm on a regular work computer.
Okay.
Katie has the laptop that comes directly from the auditor of state that's for the fiscal officer,
Mhm.
because they provide that for us, and I think 2 printers. So I'm on a regular computer like everyone else here from TCC. And then if I work from home, I actually VPN in from my own laptop, which, is not super often, but, so, yeah, so it's not a separate for everything. So same thing with Nancy, she's on her regular computer with email. She's on the police server, so she's on a different server than us, but her email is still housed on the same place as her Baldwin software for court. My softwares I have to all log into separately, but they're all housed on the same PC.
The underwriters are probably concerned, I'm not sure if this is what you're asking, but when you're transferring money, a lot of places,
That's through Huntington, and that's encrypted.
they dedicate a laptop, you have only one computer, not connected to everything else, where fund transfers take
We're not
place.
transferring internally, though, the only thing we're transferring would be Huntington to Huntington, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So that's encrypted through the bank end of it.
Mhm.
So we're not, nobody's transferring money on any separate machines. I'm either at my computer logged into Huntington, I've got my token, I have to, everything's encrypted for the bank. And the only transfers we're usually making is at the end of the month from mayor's court account into general fund account, so, or from tax account into general fund account.
Well, the issue would be not the bank end, but this end. If there was something on your computer where somebody could see what you were doing,
Well, the thing about the bank, that's what the
even though
token's
that
for.
was,
The tokens are a different code every time, like, you know what I'm saying, so even if they would be on, I don't know.
So
for
you have
sure,
a
'cause I
different,
don't-
okay, you have a different log.
Every time I log in, and after so long, it'll log out, you know, and I have to hit that again, go in, put in my regular stuff, plus the token number's different every time through Huntington,
Mhm.
so, yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Pat? What we do have on tonight is legislation for the renewal. We do have not to exceed the 75,000, which would, also, are you guys okay for Pat, we good, Pat? Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pat, for coming. Thank you. Not to exceed, so that would include, we wouldn't have to have any legislation for the cyber. You know, but I would ask, you know, even though it's 4,000, I know I could spend, but I would like your approval on it and know it too, you know, that you're in favor of it too. What's that? Yeah, I can send the quote out to you, and you'll see what the premium is and everything. I'm suggesting that we get it. I think we should have cyber protection for sure. I think for what the premium, it's $4,000, which is a lot of money.
That's extra
Yes,
for cyber,
yes,
that's like for somebody breaking into our,
Someone hacking
Computers
into
and
our
things.
systems.
yes.
don't we have like a nice shield there? I mean,
We do, but hackers can get in even with all of the protections that. are
what
put
can
in
they,
place.
what are we sacrificing though? I mean, what kind of
We
information?
could be sacrificing taxpayer information.
I'm
We could
sorry?
be Taxpayer information, we could be sacrificing, social security numbers, tax IDs, people's driver's license numbers on the clerk of court side.
Personal information,
yeah.
health information.
Yeah. Not as much health,
You
but.
can't be.
And what they do is then they take your records, they hold your computer and they ask for ransom. And, I mean, Pat just went through the whole thing with that, you know, and a lot of communities, have been exposed. So, I think we need to have, that's my opinion. I'd like to get support from council to also go ahead with that.
Mayor?
Yes,
Not only that, first of all, I wholeheartedly support that, and I will vote for that, as well as the legislation for tonight concerning this. But I think we should, for us all to get a handle of what exactly we have here in the village as far as our protections on the front end, maybe we can at some point call our IT people in.
Yeah, I got that information.
And have them explain that to us, what our protection, what the firewalls are in our servers, and, you know, do we need more? Do we need, you know, certainly not less, but, are there any things that they recommend that we do? Obviously, as Pat said, you can, you know, Bank of America's been hacked,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
everyone knows.
So, you know, there's only so much you can do to keep on the front end of this.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good idea for us to not be asleep at the wheel, not that we are, but not to just rest on our laurels and think everything's okay, and where we could have done something more to prevent it in the first place.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
our
think-
risk needs to be evaluated.
I
Yeah,
And that's
am
basically what the care, I mean, we can't rely on them, but we also need, and you're right, that's what needs to be.
I've had to dabble in this for the auditors, so I've been with the IT, and like I said, I fill out the application with them on the phones, because there's a lot of things on there that I don't do IT, so I'm like, do we have this? I don't know. So we did figure out a couple things that would be a small add-on that we could put on, you know, in place, because you got all these boxes to check on the applications, and sometimes if a lot of them are blank, then they may not quote you at all. So, but yeah, I can definitely have them put something together that, you know, in all of our language, instead of IT language for, how we're protected, absolutely.
Thank you.
So, we paid, that protection for this year too? I mean, when we got this year's policy, we paid the same kind of protection?
We didn't have cyber, this will be the first time we've gotten cyber protection in.
How did we come to cyber then? I mean, suddenly?
Just the economy, what's out there, what's, the other risk that's happening in other communities similar to us, other cities. You know, like any type of insurance, whatever your exposure is, other communities that do the same thing we that we do and how we operate have been threatened. So they're offering insurance to protect municipalities and cities and businesses against those type of things.
But if we're compromised though, you know, regardless if the insurance company reimburses us, that information that we're so protective of is still captured and taken. So I don't understand this at all. I mean, am I making sense?
I think he was just saying we need to evaluate
Well, what
what we have in place, and then also get insurance.
But if somebody, Danny, if somebody hacks into you or does something, you have to, you have to try to recover that information, which costs money. You have to fix the problems, and you might have exposure that you might be sued by somebody whose information you put at risk. And this protects you against that. That's what he just explained.
And that's the minimum that we can get away with in the 4,000?
That's what he's suggesting for a municipality with our,
That's what the quotes have come back.
Yes.
This is the minimum quote.
yes.
What is the minimum though? Did he give you that? Or
The coverage minimum,
the minimum premium that we would have to pay?
that's the minimum premium for a village our size. There's other cities and villages paying upwards of $10,000 or more depending on their data structure.
In addition, Counselor Linville, this amount, this 4,200 quote that we have was, I forgot the name of the company, but Pat Hickey also said there were other insurance companies that would not quote because of the virus
Yeah, that's one.
that's
thing
already
today.
showing in our system. So we were already excluded from others because we already have some stuff.
You're talking about computer virus?
Yes,
Potential
Right.
virus, yes.
right. Maybe, I don't know if it's COVID-19, but COVID 2020, computer COVID 2020. So, so this is an opportunity for us to potentially reduce further risk and damage. And I will say, being both in my personal and previous employment, been exposed or potentially exposed information, and what the employer had to do to protect all of the employees because of someone tapping into the system on a personal level, have been exposed, information taken, used against my family. I think the $4,200 is, until we get a better handle on, as we've already talked about, Mr. Spitznagel will talk about, is a good investment to potentially lower our risk, and then have a year to really see where we are in terms of other risks that we can protect ourselves. So I totally support it, Mayor, and actually I would like to introduce this piece of legislation tonight.
Well, we've never had this coverage before though, this year.
Correct. It's been brought up, but I don't think it's been brought to council.
But we've never had it though.
We've not had it in the past
Why
yet.
didn't we have it? Why didn't we?
I can't really answer that because I wasn't in charge of handling insurance yet at the time. I could potentially ask Katie if they mentioned it to her, what she thought of it. We may have just thought we were covered enough. Maybe someone ran it past TCC and they thought we didn't need it, but at any rate, given the climate of what goes on in the world right now, I also support and feel it's necessary in any organization.
Claims have increased, Denny, over the years.
I'm sorry, claims?
Claims have increased over the years.
Well, of course, yeah.
Because of usage and everybody and everything being on the computer and stuff. So this year, Pat really, our broker really recommended it, and it's time to do it.
And that's the best security that we can get then? I mean, and the least expensive?
Yes. Well, I don't know if it's the best, but he's offering what he feels is starting off, like Mr. Whedon just mentioned, he feels adequate coverage for us to start off, similar to the communities our size, and that's where we're at. And that doesn't mean next year we might say, hey, we need more coverage or we need less, depending on what we find out. But we know we definitely need some coverage.
And a
That's-
30% increase probably.
Not necessarily.
Well, if we
That's a
have,
separate policy.
well, if we have lawsuits and things like that, or, people have to protect the village too and do what's right.
Mayor, if I may, speaking to the 30% increase that we're facing this year, not having something like a cyber security policy in place, I believe puts us at risk for other potential higher increases because we may have more exposure,
Or what?
we may have more exposure to more lawsuits if we allow other people's private information, personal information, to get out and be harmed. We may be on the hook for that too. So what's important to me as chair of the Safety and Insurance Committee is that we really take a good hard look over the course of the next year of all of our potential risk areas and work toward doing whatever we can as a municipal village to reduce our potential exposure. So that,
Looking at potential risk from the fact of, can we avoid that? How can we avoid it? And what do we need to do to avoid it? Is that what you're talking about?
that's what I'm talking about.
Correct.
Right.
Just like Mr. Montello mentioned, having proper training in the HR, going to different harassment trainings, things like that, educating ourselves, all the employees, public officials.
So we haven't done anything to this point then, to that end?
We can do a
No, we
cybersecurity
can.
training as well for everybody, absolutely. I mean, I talked to even our copier people about cybersecurity when you're scanning documents and making copies, but we could put a training together for that as well.
Right, and we will.
It's the future, Danny. At the present and the future.
Future is now.
Yeah,
Right, right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I agree with the cybersecurity. I think it's something that is necessary. I'm actually surprised that we do not have that already. I don't know about anybody else, but I get a lot of outside emails into my village email, from anything from Chamber of Commerce to people asking for information to be added to our website and things like that, which I never click on, unless it's something that's internally generated. And I think it would be simple for somebody to accidentally click on that, let some sort of worm in accidentally. So I agree with that. The contract, it's unfortunate that we had to go up how much, but growing up in a family business that dealt with insurance companies all the time, you always carry full coverage, no matter what. You don't carry it just because the car is leased. You carry it when that car is paid off. You carry it when that car is 10 years old because you're going to end up paying out one way. You can control your costs with your insurance carrier. You can't control your costs of repairs afterwards when they're all out of pocket. So I'm fine with this contract and I'm fine with the cybersecurity.
very good, thank you. We okay with introducing it for suspension then?
Yes.
Okay. Ray, we'll
Yes.
go through that in a, we're gonna go through it now because we're not having a council caucus. Okay, since we're having the COW meeting, there's no sense in just repeating all the legislation again. So Ray, you would introduce that?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get to that. For suspension, Ray. Okay, we did Pat Hickey. Any comments from any residents related to the agenda? Okay. Do we have any residents on tonight?
I show 9 watching, and we had a comment earlier from someone named David Harala who said hello and available for questions, whatever that meant, so I don't.
Well, good. Okay, so at least we know we're communicating and people can get out. It's so hard to hear.
We're boring everybody.
Okay, item 5, we got the legislation. Our next piece is the OPWC grant. I know Joe Gelati sent out a memo relating to that, and applying for that grant funding. I think what's important about this piece of legislation, I mean, we can go through it, but you don't know if you're gonna get it or not, is that we apply for it. If we do receive it, then we would, of course, bring Joe in to review it as council and the body. We would talk about it, see whether or not we want to move forward with it. As Joe's last time, simply making application for this funding does not commit the village to proceeding with the project. So I think at this time, because I know a lot of times we're not sure what we're going to do for road improvements as we move forward, especially with the economy, the budget, what lies ahead for all of us. But I think applying for it, and that's what this piece of legislation is doing. It's given Chagrin Valley Engineering, telling them to apply for it, allowing them to apply for the grant. Shows there's legislation there. If we receive the grant, then we still have to talk about whether or not we want to accept the grant. So I think we should, approve the legislation, apply for the grant. We receive the grant, then we can talk about making those repairs. And as you know, this would be for the portion of Alexander Road between Dunham and Walton. So basically from Dunham to Village Hall here, if we were to receive that grant.
Mr. Mayor?
Not gonna be Walton and, not in Northfield.
No, it's Alexander Road. It would be from Dunham Road east to Walton.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I definitely think that we should be applying for this grant and any grants that are possible for us to get. Especially the engineer is estimating the project to be just under $500,000. This grant would give us half of those funds. And Mr. Gelati indicated that we would possibly be able to apply for additional grant funding from Cuyahoga County of almost the other full half, another $250,000. So
We did apply for that, so we could possibly,
So
yes, good point. We
potentially-
could possibly get that.
right, so potentially receiving this, it would cost us nothing out of pocket for the repaving of Alexander. So.
Exactly.
And I would like to introduce that when we get to that point for suspension, because the paperwork for this grant does need to be in by November 11th.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on that? Is everybody in favor of suspension for that piece of legislation?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the next item is ordinance 2020-6-2020. It's the note refunding. I'm gonna let Angela talk about that a little bit.
So this piece of legislation is to renew the current note that we've had. Last year, the note was at $1,495,000. The renewal will be at $1,295,000. And basically, this continues with road projects that we had already started. Part of this note covers the purchase of the event center. And so, if you have questions, let me know. This one's not anything new.
Mayor,
Yes.
just a couple quick questions, Angela. Of course, we paid down $200,000 last year.
Correct, we're planning to, so that'll come, everything comes due in November, November 18th, 19th timeframe, and we will be paying down, correct, we will pay down.
What's the minimum that we are allowed to pay on a note? Is there a minimum? And do you know what the interest rate?
I can look
We would
back
get
in
it.
paperwork to see what our interest rate was on this. Interest rate will not be determined for this or our new money until the day after Election Day. It's a 5-week process that we go through with the far as the minimums, you know, it just depends each year what you're taking and what projects you're using it for. Like the first year that we had the event center, we did not have to pay any portion on that. Where this year, we paid last year 10,000, this year we're gonna pay 60, then we're gonna pay a bigger portion. So it kind of is all relative to your projects and the span of your note, so for how many years you're taking it.
Okay. The second whereas there, it says, it appears advisable in lieu of issuing bonds at this time to issue new notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds.
Correct.
So,
We don't issue our own bonds.
why is it advisable to issue another
Because
note?
we don't have the credit rating. We have not issued bonds since I've been here, and I think probably a long time before that either. So without having that credit rating, the note is the easier way to go, the way to go for capital projects, and the more short-term way to go.
And the bonds would be more
Long-term.
interest.
Long-term and much higher interest, correct, absolutely.
All right, and we can continue to reissue new notes every year. Is there a
We can
limit?
continue to reissue. I'm sure there would be a limit. They do check all of our assets. We've had to send them, you know, financials. They check our audit, our most recent audit. They check our Hinkle report, which is our financial report every year that goes to the state of Ohio. And so with that, they can, that's where the Ohio Treasury Office can say, we don't want to go ahead and do this. Or yes, we're going to go ahead and work with you, which is where we get a lower interest rate. And then also on, we use Stifel and Nicholas. And so they could also go out and start doing more due diligence to rate us if they needed to. If we would have come back from OMAP and found out they weren't gonna bother with our new money, then we would have had to look elsewhere to pay a higher interest rate for it. So,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely.
And I don't want to jump ahead, but
So we don't want to take $1 billion, you know, we don't want to go to up to $1 billion anytime. So
Right,
I'm sure there
right.
would be limits where they may say, hey, you don't have enough assets coming in to cover this.
yeah, and I don't want to jump ahead, but the next piece of legislation is for Dunham Road.
Absolutely.
And that's $2 million to
2.6 million, since we are responsible
Now-
for the entire project, that's what we need to
Right,
take.
now just for people watching, we're not spending $2.6 million. We're in charge
No.
of the money, so we have to get that, but
Absolutely.
it's gonna be returned to us.
Because we're the lead on the
Most of it.
project.
But with that said, let's stop and let's just talk about this one for now.
Okay,
right?
very
Because
good.
Because, and that's a good point you bring up, though, maybe just to let everybody know, this is a reissuance of our current note that we've had over the years that we're paying down. And so that's already been there, we're just reissuing them, basically, you know, putting a contract out there, what we're going to do there. And then the second piece of legislation would be specifically for the Dunham Road project.
Yeah, now, they have, I'm not moving ahead of myself, but it dovetails off of this. They have looked at both of these in the aggregate and said, you're okay to get both of
Right,
these.
they're gonna move it forward to that, for the S&P rating. for both.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Oh, I see, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right, because they could have very well said, we'll do your renewal, but not necessarily.
Well, because that's three, you know, that's, what, 2.6 plus, this is 1.2, you know, and then they look at our assets and liabilities and say, you don't have enough, even though we're getting most of that money back. That's what I wanted to be
Yeah,
clear.
absolutely.
that this
Right,
is all-
exactly, and Angela will tell you that we had to provide the cooperative agreement, okay? We had to, because there was even one question that came, you know, I'm not sure either, I presented to Angela and Katie is, you know, we're signing a cooperative agreement before we even, you know,
Mhm.
have the note, but they're saying, oh, no, we want to see that. We want to see, you're telling us you're going to give funds
Collateral from.
from this,
funds.
we want to
Right.
see agreement. We gave them a draft, they said, no, we want to see a signed copy of it. Because a draft could, that doesn't, you know, they want to see that it is going to happen. So we did that, we had to submit the signed agreement, so we signed that too, and I know I sent you guys a copy of that and stuff, so yeah, it was quite a process.
So there's a lot of due diligence we go through to, you know, I have phone calls and we'll have still some more. This was my first time renewing the note and asking for new
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Angela or the mayor, what was the Alexander Road, Dunham Road improvement, and when was that?
There's the widening.
Dunham Road.
Let me see.
Alexander and Dunham, that was the widening where they put the
Yeah.
turn lane.
Yes, right in the corner.
On Alexander.
Yes.
Do you know how long ago that was?
I'm gonna say, what do you think, Denny, Brian?
I think Mayor
5, 6
Yanielski
years?
was here.
Yeah.
I think
5,
that-
6 years
I think
when
that
we
was
did
Mayor
that?
Yanielski, so, and that's what, 17-year life, something like that? The,
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yep. Any more questions on that, the renewal on that note?
One other question,
Oh, yeah,
Mr.
go
Mayor.
ahead.
I just wanted to ask to make sure that everything is, are the names going to be changed as fiscal officer?
Well, the mayor and I actually discussed that right before the meeting, and because we won't be getting to executive session until after all of this, I mean, like, I signed the papers already when I was doing the applications and everything. Katie said I had proxy to sign for, for the papers, so that part's been done on the back end.
Okay,
On signing the legislation, we're gonna leave it Katie as of this moment,
Okay.
and then if, next time we have a meeting, things could be different, so.
Well, we're
Okay.
gonna make sure that through our legal department that.
yeah, I just wanted to be sure that there
How-
wasn't
yeah,
a
how we're-
glitch
how we're
somewhere.
gonna-
Yeah, but in
How
the
we're gonna move that.
application for everything I
how-
signed,
Yeah, how we're gonna move forward.
as tax administrator.
Right,
Katie,
as long as you have the proxy for that and
You
stuff,
got
too.
it.
Great.
Any other questions for ordinance 2020-6-2020?
I'm sorry, that's just the 2020 road fund. Just 2020 I added an extra for you.
Mayor, I'll introduce that if that's okay, if everybody.
No, that's fine.
For suspension.
Yes. Everybody good to move on with item D? Item D, 2020-7, new money note for the Dunham Road project. Angela, I'll let you talk about that too.
I can actually, I mean, it's very similar legislation, so if we want to just go right into questions, I mean, we're gonna, we're asking for the 2.6 million because we do, we're the front runner on the project, so we do have to make sure we have the funds there to pay. As we spoke before, Joe has, the agreement with the contractor will be that they will not invoice us any more than one time per month. In any given month, there may be a bigger invoice depending on what part of the road they're working on and what materials have been and labor costs. So, we'll be ready to go when this project gets started, and so maybe at the end of the year, when this note comes in, the finances are gonna look super pretty, but they're sitting there waiting, obviously, because most of the project will pay off next year. And then we will receive our funding back from Maple and then the project from the county, and so when it's all said and done, hopefully, we will have only paid out that 585,000, whatever we're at with that bid. That would be what our true out-of-pocket will be.
One question I do have, Angela, on it. I know, understand we're the biggest part of it, so we take the financial responsibility, and we've got the contract with Maple Heights.
Yes.
When we get reimbursed by the county, will the county reimburse Walton Hills?
Walton Hills
Maple Heights?
specifically. Maple's out of that, so
Okay.
they're gonna reimburse us and then they're done with their fees.
But the county will
County
reimburse
reimburses us
okay, us completely,
completely.
for both parts
Because
of
we
it?
pay for everything completely.
Okay. Okay, so we're getting Maple Heights
Absolutely.
grant.
They have their
No
grant
payment.
money going to Maple and it'll all come to us.
And
Okay.
then Maple Heights has to pay us
Their
for their
out-of-pocket
share.
cost.
Yes.
Once their part of the project is complete, they'll pay us.
Pay us.
We may see their money sooner than the county's, because the county will be at the end of the project.
Okay, that's it.
I gave you, got everybody the memo Joe sent today, made you a copy, put in your box. I was gonna, maybe I'll read it into, just to let people know, but, it will kind of give us an idea. He wrote, the pre-construction meeting for the Dunham Road reconstruction project is scheduled for the 10/28. So, next 28th is scheduled. In addition to the contractor, which is Fabrizi, this meeting will also include the safety forces from Walton Hills, Maple Heights, and Valley View, as well as representatives from various utilities. We anticipate the contractor to provide us with a written preliminary construction schedule in the near future. The main topics of the meeting consist of construction schedule, maintenance, and traffic. Once this meeting is complete, further detailed information regarding these topics will be available. So we're hoping after that meeting, Joe is going to provide us with more detail on when the project's actually going to start. And, we can provide that to council along with providing it to the residents, so the residents along that road will have a good idea when that project's going to start, instead of just all of a sudden seeing a truck out there. Talking to Joe, the way things are going, it looks more like after the first of the year. I just kind of asked him, but he'll have more clarity on it after the meeting, just to kind of get an idea. So. That's relating to that. Any questions on 2020-7? Mary, you're going to introduce that, okay? For suspension?
Yes.
I do have, we do have item 6, finance update. We received report 52 for September. There, I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything you'd like to talk about. I know next month, we're gonna have to start diving into the budget and get that, so we can get that rolling, get that passed, at least start looking at it. So, but if anybody has any questions, I just wanted to have that on the agenda. So we're gonna start to see that. That'll probably be our big item in November there. If not, I'll move on to other business. Okay. That brings up, one thing, I just have one item there, because I'll have other business in the, you know what? Come to think of it, that's at the end of the meeting, other business. Oh, that's before executive session, that's important, okay, so that's fine. But just something to think about in here, our next, and I know because of the COVID-19 and actually we're planning on having more meetings to do with the insurance and stuff, but that's why me, Ray, Angela, and Pat just met. He didn't have any of the numbers yet. They didn't give him the premium back, so we didn't have a lot to talk about. So we said we'll just do it on one meeting, but our November 3rd COW meeting is also election day. So I thought, I don't know how everybody feels. I know usually we cancel, whether it's a COW meeting or a council meeting, we don't have that meeting. I don't see anything, we don't have anything as of right now. It's just, we got work to do as far as the budget and stuff. But I can see us having a COW meeting, the second one, then we can always have a council meeting. If we needed to have another COW meeting before the council meeting like we're doing here, that would be okay too. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there because we don't have a meeting next week, but our following, the 3rd is election day, and it's also the Tuesday for a COW meeting. So I know being election day, some of us make plans and to know ahead of time, or if you want to wait and see, I'm fine there too. I just, I see no problem with us canceling it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I think we should cancel it. We have done that every year since I've been at council. It's just kind of a conflict, things are going on. I think it's just better, we can always meet again. Like you said, we can have our COW the prior week, and if we need to have another one, we can have it before the council meeting. So that's my opinion.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And if something were to change, we can always have a COW meeting on a Wednesday or a Thursday or we'll make our decision in our council meeting coming up here. If you want, or you wanna wait, that's fine too. Otherwise, I have anything else. Does anybody else have anything? Before we call for adjournment and go into our council meeting? Anything from any residents
No.
concerning the items or anything? Nothing?
No.
Angela? Okay. Nothing from any residents? Can I ask for adjournment of the COW meeting?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the COW meeting on October 20th, 2020.
At 8:24. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Gloria.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller?
Yes.
Councilman Linville?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlasky?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Wheat?
Yes.
Committee of the whole meeting adjourned at 8:24 p.m. Does anybody want water or anything, or, okay. Anybody else want to use the restroom before we start? 20th, 2020, at 8:30 PM. The council meeting immediately followed the COW meeting. This meeting is being live streamed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are following Substitute House Bill 197 provisions that relate to public meetings during the COVID-19 pandemic. That was item 1. Second is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
I'd like to take a moment of silence for our deceased residents, Rosalie Simone and Sandra L. Reynolds, and also for all our service personnel. Thank you. Roll call.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller. Here. Councilman Linville.
Yes?
Councilwoman Allen.
Here.
Councilwoman Trulowski. Here. Councilman Spitznagel.
Here.
Councilman Weed.
Present.
All council here and present,
And accountable.
along with our law solicitor, John Montello, our tax administrator accountant, Angela Rebay. Okay, any comments from residents or anybody watching?
No residents.
Okay. And if you have any comments, you can type them in at any time. Angela's looking at the computer and she'll let us know. Have the mayor's report for September. This would be the police report first. The Walton Hills Police Department issued 131 citations in the month of September. The predominant violation was speeding with 36 citations, followed by 11 citations written for traffic control lights and 11 citations for expired plates. There was 1 arrest for driving while under the influence of alcohol/drugs. Okay. So that was pretty good, only 1. I also have our court report. Revenue for September. For September was $15,335,006. Year to date, we're at $142,968.12. Our court is a little bit down, and last year at this time it was $221,246.60. Any council comments at this time?
You want me to read in the,
Laura, you can either do it here or under new business, wherever you want, that's fine. Or anybody wants to read their report or anything, you can do it under council comments, that's fine.
okay, I'll read it.
Okay.
This is the Recreation Department report for October 2020. We had 57 residents registered for our senior drive-through lunch in September. We are currently taking reservations for the next senior lunch next Monday, October the 26th. Our transportation services have increased a little since the pandemic. One of our drivers will be out on medical leave for 4 to 6 weeks, and we will welcome Mark Corrado from the police department, who will be filling in if we need him. The Fall Family Fun Day held on Sunday, October 11th, from noon to 4 p.m. at TJ Young Park was a huge success. We had over 150 residents who came to the event. Everyone came and was thrilled that we had something this year. I received a lot of compliments on the event. The residents felt safe and enjoyed the band music, the magic show, and all the activities that we had available for the kids. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have postponed the Halloween party until next year. However, we are able
getting leftover pastries, breads, and bagels from Giant Eagle and Panera Bread on a weekly basis from the Gospel House. We then package them up and deliver to our residents and families who we know can use the extra food. Room rentals are still going on during this pandemic, but not as often. The majority of the room rentals contracts that we are booking are for next year. We already have a few months next year that are booked for every weekend. Thank you.
And just to comment on that, I just want to say Natalie and Carleen and all the staff and the service department and our auxiliary, everybody that was involved in that, did a great job. And I thought they, relating to the pandemic, did a great job. There was a lot of signage. They took temperatures to everybody that entered the park. And I thought our residents and everybody that attended respected each other, did a great job, and it went off really well. And they just conducted a very well, a very good event in a tough times. And they should be commended for that, because there was just a lot of extra work that went into that to make that happen and still make sure everybody was safe.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
And when I was there, a lot of the comments were, I haven't seen my neighbor in such and such a period of time. And that, so people got to see people that they haven't seen in a long, long time with this. So it was really nice to be able to talk with people we haven't seen in a while. And the weather was perfect, and they, as you said, Mayor, they did a great job planning. And
Right.
There's something for everyone, for every age.
Right. And it was, and we all know, I mean, it's important for us as adults and stuff too, but for our children, we due to the pandemic, we didn't have the hayride, which is always a big hit at the park this time of the year. And of course, we couldn't have our regular Halloween party due to the pandemic. So they came up with a great idea, and something that kind of was nice for everybody, but still provided a very good and safe environment. So I just want to commend them. Anybody else? Did you want to do, anybody want to do their report now, or do they want to do it later on, or?
Do you want me to do the report on the engineer?
Um,
Am I supposed to do that?
From Rob Calvin, your report from Rob Calvin?
I'm sure I can do it. Okay. Huh? Well, this is from, I got quite a copy. Go ahead, Jennifer, read.
Well, I'll do the economic development one first.
Does somebody else, Danny, if you don't want to, does somebody else want to do that from the committee?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, Mary can do it.
Okay, did you want to go now, Mary, or?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Reporting from Tom Jordan, he has, the village has continued to track the new federal relief package. Upon its release, we will continue to provide businesses with the information that will benefit Walton Hills small businesses. The information will be available through the village website. We have also been informed by representatives of Ford that there is a new contract on the Ford site. The negotiations are in its final stages. Ford needs to finalize the contract, begin buyer's due diligence, and close the contract for sale as promptly as possible. After all of that, we may be hearing
Correct.
something. We are working with a prospective purchaser of a vacant property in the industrial park to relocate from outside the county. We worked with the county DOD and the National Development Council to offer the new buyer an incentive package to locate here in Walton Hills. When the deal is finalized, we can disclose the purchaser at that time. The documents relative to the sale of the land bank have been forwarded to Smith Obie. We are also awaiting the recording of the dedication plaque that will explain the city ROW, and we await Smith & Obie's response currently. The letter to the EPA requesting technical assistance to record the environmental documents necessary to complete the cleanup on on 7010 Crick Road was sent. The village will consider moving forward with the limited cleanup at 7010 Crick Road, and Tom Jordan will be forwarding to council further information on this project. In economic development, we continue to respond to inquiries from the state website on our available properties, and we have discussed and implemented updated procedures for the planning commission. That's it.
Very good.
Thank you, Jennifer. Nice report. Good job.
Mayor, did you want to?
Sure. This is the report from our street commissioner and building inspector, Rob Kelman. Completed branch chipping for the season, started leaf collection, replaced 15-inch crushed storm line in the right-of-way on Dunham Road, finished the household hazard waste roundup, repaired snow plows and trucks to get ready for the 2021 season. Concrete and catch basin repairs were completed by Agresta in the industrial area, Crick, Treat, and Hannah Parkway. Asphalt repairs were completed by NES Corp. On Dunham, Egbert, and Walton Roads. And that's his report.
Denny or Brian, if you guys want to read Joe Gelati's report, I know I did read it in the COW meeting, not the report, but just the update on Dunham Road. We can read it again in here, I know, because people are definitely wondering
I
about
have it here.
that.
I'll read it.
Yeah, if you want. I know we're not, it's just kind of an update, we'll know more after Monday, but at least that explains that.
This is from Joe Gelati, dated Tuesday, October 20th of this year, obviously. Mayor, the pre-construction meeting for the Dunham Road reconstruction project is scheduled for 10/28/2020. In addition to the contractor, which is Fabrizi Construction, this meeting will also include safety forces from Walton Hills, Maple Heights, and Valley View, as well as representatives from various utilities. We anticipate the contractor to provide us with a written preliminary construction schedule in the near future. The main topics of this meeting consist of construction schedule and maintenance of traffic. Once this meeting is complete, further detailed information regarding these topics will be available. Signed, Joe Gelati.
You can keep it, Brian.
Oh, okay, I'll
Yeah.
give it back to you.
I didn't draw any pictures or anything out of that, I already.
No.
Says this is garage.
Any other comments from council or any?
Yes, Mayor Colgraf
Yes, Mr. Weed.
and the members of council, just a brief note that as a member of the Safety and Insurance Committee, prior to today, back on October 7th, there was a meeting with Pat Hickey to kind of get a better understanding of our insurance program. He did a very good job of bringing us up to date on our possibilities that led to tonight's legislation. Also, on October the 7th, there was a discovery meeting, basically with the two representatives of our police department, FOP, of our bargaining unit portion of the police department, along with Chief, the Mayor, Angela, Reve, and myself, just to begin some very preliminary discovery of items that may be coming up when the full-scale negotiations with the police department takes place real soon. This year, December 31st, the current collective bargaining agreement with our police department and the FOP will expire, and so negotiations will be moving forward real soon.
I think that pretty much wraps everything up. Anybody else have anything? Okay, very good. We're ready to move on to the legislation? Okay. Jennifer?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to introduce Resolution 2020-21 OPWC grant, a a resolution authorizing the mayor to apply for the Ohio Public Works Commission for a potential grant and/or loan for funding of capital infrastructure improvement projects in the village of Walton Hills for suspension.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Linville
Oh,
actually
yeah.
seconded first.
Denny, I think.
Forgive the glory, it's all right.
Okay, seconded by Denny. Vote on suspension?
Councilwoman Brenner Miller,
Yes.
Councilman Linville,
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Chulowski,
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel,
Yes.
Councilman Weed.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for adoption of Resolution 2020-21, the OPWC grant.
Second.
Second by Mary.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller,
Yes.
Councilman Linville,
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Chulowski,
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel,
Yes.
Councilman Weed.
Yes.
Resolution 2020-21 passed. Okay. Item B, Resolution 2020-22.
Mayor Colgraf and members of council, I'd like to introduce for suspension resolution number 2020-22, a resolution authorizing the mayor and the clerk of the village of Walton Hills to enter into an agreement with the HCC Public Risk Ohio, DBA Tokyo Marine, through the Love Insurance Agency for a municipal package insurance program effective November 1, 2020 through October 31, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
Second. Jennifer. got it.
Aye.
Jennifer, second by Jennifer. Allen. Vote on suspension?
Councilwoman Brenner Miller,
Yes.
Councilman Linville,
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Chulowski, Councilman Spitznagel,
Yes.
Councilman Weed.
Yes. Mayor Colgraf, members of council, I'd like to ask for adoption of resolution number 2020-22.
Second.
Okay, vote on the adoption.
Councilwoman
Second
Brenner
by
Miller,
Yes.
Councilman Linville,
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Chulowski,
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel,
Yes.
Councilman Weed.
Yes.
Very good, passed. So, okay, item C, ordinance 2020-6,
Mayor?
note refunding?
Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Spitznagle.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce for suspension ordinance number 2020-6, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $1,295,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of constructing and installing road improvements.
Second.
Second by Mr. Whedon.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller,
Yes.
Councilman Linville,
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Chulowski,
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel,
Yes.
Councilman Weed.
Yes.
Okay,
Mr.
passed
Mayor?
under suspension. Go ahead,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for adoption of ordinance number 2020-6.
Second.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller,
Yes.
Councilman Linville,
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Chulowski,
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel,
Yes.
Councilman Weed.
Yes.
Ordinance passed 6-0. Thank you, everybody. Ordinance D, ordinance 2020-7. Mary?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to introduce ordinance 2020-7 for suspension and ordinance authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $2,600,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of constructing and installing road improvements for the Dunham Road reconstruction project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Spitznagle.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller,
Yes.
Councilman Linville,
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Chulowski,
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel,
Yes.
Councilman Weed.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for adoption of ordinance 2020-7.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Spitznagle.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller,
Yes.
Councilman Linville,
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Chulowski,
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel,
Yes.
Councilman Weed.
Yes.
Ordinance passed 6-0. Thank you, everybody. And just for residents too, everything on the agenda, besides talking about it before the committee of whole, we've been talking before last month of the reissuance of our notes, almost a year of discussion from the project to how we're gonna pay for it and the grants, so, everything just kinda came together. We're issuing some notes, it was right in our budget even too, so, just to kinda let everybody know that. Old business, I don't have any old business. Anybody have any old business or anything they'd like to add, or any questions from the residents?
No questions.
Okay. The only new business I have, we are having a planning commission meeting, or we're setting up a plan, we're having a planning commission meeting October 28, 2020 at 7 PM. And then, I don't know if we wanted to make any decision on the COW meeting on election day. As of right now, we have, we're gonna start talking the budget and stuff. I don't foresee any legislation, or anything, but I mean, if we wanna have two meetings, or we can wait. It's up to you, or do you wanna schedule it another day?
I suggest we cancel it.
I think I'm in favor of it. I think, to me, it's an important day. I think, being part of the election and, us not being here is important. And stuff, it's up to council.
Of course, if
Mr.
something comes up, we can always convene.
Okay. So what we'll do is, as of now, the COW meeting, we're gonna cancel the COW meeting on November 3rd unless we needed to have an emergency type meeting.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
I just want to mention, I know you and I have spoken about this, that just, if it's not necessary for us to meet, the added expense of needing to live stream our meetings and stuff tries to, my thought is, let's keep our costs down, and if we don't have to meet, why meet just to say we're meeting? So historically, not meeting on election day, supposedly this is going to be a much larger turnout too. I think the prudent thing would be to cancel it for now unless it becomes necessary.
Good. Let's go with that. Everybody in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Just want to mention to the next item is executive session to discuss the fiscal officer position. Just for anybody that's watching us on YouTube, when we come out from that executive session, there will be no business. We just will reconvene the meeting and then adjourn the meeting. So we will reconvene after the executive session, but then just adjourn the meeting. There won't be any legislation or any discussion. Residents are welcome to stay on. You won't be able to view us during executive session because that is something private. But we will reconvene, but there won't be any other business except to adjourn the council meeting. So can I get a motion to go into executive session?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session
To,
to discuss the fiscal officer position.
is there a second?
Second.
Second by Gloria.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller?
Yes.
Councilman Linville?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Trulowski?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Okay. Going into an executive. Yes. I'd like to make, no,
You do a second.
yeah, because I don't make the motion, I need a motion to reconvene.
Let me get the tape recorder going first here.
Yes.
Went to
Whenever
sleep.
you're ready. We got
Okay.
tape recorders, we got video recorders, we got. We're back from executive session at 9:14. Can I get a motion to reconvene?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to reconvene.
Second.
Second by Mr. Whedon.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller?
Yes.
Councilman Linville?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Trulowski?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Reconvene into our regular council meeting from executive session at 9:14. Can I ask for a motion for an adjournment?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for a motion of adjournment.
Second.
Second.
Second by Gloria.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller?
Yes.
Councilman Linville?
Sad, yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Trulowski? Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes. Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes.
9:12.
9:15. The reason I know that, Denny, I go by this one here, that one's off. So they got one here that's right, 9:15. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.